The each keyword, one of the magical features of PowerQuery. When you create a new column in PowerQuery editor, have you ever asked yourself why do you need to add the square braces around the column names? Is it just a PowerQuery's thing, or is there a deeper meaning behind it? You probably know that creating a new column using the user interface actually adds a new formula to the top bar, and you can see all the formulas you've added by right-clicking on the query and selecting the advanced editor. But you might have missed what the custom column actually does. The new formula it creates starts with Table.AddColumn. If you are completely new to PowerQuery, this is called a function, and there's a good documentation for it on Microsoft Learn. Functions take in parameters and return values, and Table.AddColumn is no exception. If you look closely, you can see your formula after the last comma, but it has this weird each keyword before it. Speaking of documentation, if you check out the docs for Table.AddColumn, you can see it takes 3 parameters. Well, actually 4, but only 3 of them are required. Parameters are separated by commas, as you can see. Your formula appears after the second comma, which means it's the third parameter. The doc says this third parameter should be a function which runs through the entire table and calculates the value of the new column for each row. Now, custom functions in PowerQuery are usually defined like this: a pair of braces holding the list of parameters and then the definition. What should be done with these parameters? In this simple example, PowerQuery will just add these 2 numbers together. Okay, fine, but where are the braces in my add column example? Exactly, that's the point. Turns out the keyword each is actually just a shorthand for defining functions with single parameters. Take this function for example. It takes 1 parameter and multiplies it by 400. Now let's make this function shorter using the each keyword. First, let's rename the parameter. Let's name it underscore. This function does exactly the same thing as the previous one, it's just the parameter name that's changed. The names don't actually matter, they're just there for you to make your life easier. Now, this is where the magic happens. When you have a function like this, you can just simply replace the first part with the each keyword, like this. Magical, isn't it? And this is exactly the same thing as before. In fact, I encourage you to try that in PowerQuery and check if you get the same result. Spoiler alert, you do get the same result. So as long as you only have a single parameter, you can use the fancy each keyword and brag with it in your code. But hold on, this doesn't look like my original formula. I don't see any underscores, and you still haven't told me what do I need the square brackets for. Glad you asked. There's more magic to uncover. Let's take a look at our formula again. Remember how I told you that you can write any single parameter function using the each keyword? Well, that's still the case here. The interesting part in this situation is the type of the parameter we're getting. So, this function is being executed with each row in your table. For every row, the function receives the whole row so it can process it. In this example, the function is just taking the value from column A and it's multiplying it by 11. The raw data is the single parameter and it's what's called a record. A record is like a dictionary book. It stores keys and the translations or values, and you can get the values using the keys. In PowerQuery, you can make a new record like this. Start with the square brackets and then enter all the key value pairs. The records in this example has 3 keys, 3 German words, and the values of these keys are the English translations of these words. Records can store any kind of data, like numbers in our example. We can write the first row from our table as a record like this. You can try that in a blank PowerQuery query. Just create a new variable and store this record there. Now, to get the value for key A, you can use the square brackets again. Can you see now why you need the square brackets? Not yet? Well, let's get back to our functions. Let's create a function which takes this record and extracts the value of the key A. Start with the braces and add the row parameter. Then just use the same method for extracting the value as before. Now let's convert this function to use the each keyword. First, let's rename the parameter to underscore. Then replace the braces and the arrow with each. Great, this looks almost like our formula, but where's the underscore? Well, Microsoft thought it's just too hard to type out the underscore every time, so they decided to allow creators to just omit the underscore. Poof. So this function is actually the same as this one. Now that you know the secret, go back to your formula bar and add the underscore before the column name. Surprise! It still works! You can even go one step further and bring back the braces and the arrow. While this is a personal preference, I actually prefer the longer, more verbose function definition, as there's no magic. You can see how the parameter is passed and what's its name. But anyway, that's the standard in PowerQuery, so the sooner you get used to it, the better. And now you know why I need the square brackets. Anyway, thank you for your time today. I hope this was useful. If you'd like to learn more about records and tables, you are in a good place, as I'm planning to make another video just about these. So stay tuned and see you soon. Bye.